Meanwhile, there's this: China banning antimony exports and other key high-tech materials to the United States earlier this month. This was in response to U.S. chip sanctions. Antimony is on the U.S. government's list of critical minerals that are vital for America's economic and national security. China is the biggest antimony ore producer, operating and controlling 50 to 60% of the market. Joining me now is United States Antimony Corporation Chairman and CEO Gary Evans. U.S. Antimony Corporation owns the only operating permitted antimony smelter in North America and the only U.S. domestic producer of antimony products. Gary, great to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me this morning, Maria.
So I want to get your take on how this Chinese ban has impacted your business. And given the fact that China really dominates the production of antimony with 50% or 60% of the market, do you see other ways to get more resources?
Well, it's a great question, something we've been trying to figure out ourselves. I mean, when China made its announcement in early September that they were going to cut off antimony shipments, not only to us, but every country in the world, and they make not only, they're the biggest buyer of antimony, the biggest producer of antimony, but they also make the finished product. So it got every country in the world that was shipping to China on their knees. And so what we are doing is we are sourcing that antimony. The problem is there's truly a worldwide shortage. China had the largest mine. That mine is basically done. The second largest mine is in Western Hemisphere. It's in Australia, and it's only got a few years life left on it. So we have been on the phones talking to countries, 20 some odd over the last 120 days, and we actually signed our first contract with a company out of Australia to bring antimony in beginning in early January, and we're close to finishing a contract with Thailand.
Well, I mean, look, this is a very important critical mineral for America, given the fact that it's used in the military and related to the nation's defense. Would you expect the U.S. government to provide some kind of subsidy or some kind of funding in terms of helping you locate more of the product?
Really, what the government wants us to do is increase the capability of our smelter up in Thompson Falls, Montana, by 3 to 4 times. And so we've been having lots of discussions, meetings. We've issued white papers, and they also want to help us with our exploitation efforts up in Alaska. We've bought a number of leases that have current antimony deposits that are outcrops that we can easily get on trucks and move to Montana from Alaska, and we plan to do that by the second quarter of next year.
Well, this is a big effort. I mean, you know, if the White House is asking you to quadruple your production of this critical mineral, what's the timeline on that? That doesn't happen overnight, right? What are your expectations in terms of ramping up your own production?
It's a great question. We've been getting, as I said, a lot of attention. I think when China made its announcement, I got a call from the DOD with 3 people on it. The next day, there were 11 people on it. They've come and visited all of our facilities, and then they have said this is a high priority. So we'll see. Obviously, the government moves slowly, but we're anxiously hoping that we might see some answers here in the next 30 to 60 days.
Well, I mean, look, the other sources aren't so promising either, right? We get China, Russia, Brazil.
So remember, we're funding wars in Ukraine and Israel, and people don't realize antimony's the hardening material for lead. It's the primers, it's the laser-guided missiles, night vision cameras, night vision binoculars, any type of armor-piercing bullets has to have antimony. And on the industrial side, it's used in supercomputers, it's used in drones, it's used in roofing materials. It's a fire retardant. So the industrial side is actually much larger than the government side. So it's a problem all over, and we're getting lots of inquiries. And this is a fixable problem. When you take a commodity that goes from $5 a pound to $18 a pound in 90 days, things that don't work at $5 start working at $15. And so there's deposits around the world. The problem is they're small deposits, they're small veins, they're small outcrops, and it's going to take the accumulation of all those. So it's a problem that's fixable, but we have to move quickly because our government was getting all their antimony from China, and so China really knocked everybody for a fast one here.
Well, obviously, your company is in a very unique position right now with the rarity of this production of this critical mineral, and that's why the price is going up. Antimony has seen the largest price increase of any metal this year.
That's right.
It's now more expensive than copper.
That's right.
You assess the pricing and whether or not it's going to go up further.
Actually, we hope it doesn't go up anymore because we don't want to see demand destruction. But
right.
As we start getting deliveries, as we start, processing and meeting this demand of the industry as well as the government, I think things will settle down. But it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight.
Now, your smelter is operating at what, 50% capacity right now? 50%
of capacity. All that antimony comes from Canada, and but soon that will change, as I mentioned, from other countries. So yes, we could use antimony tomorrow.
So tell me about this agreement you have with Perpetua Resources for a test program related to a project in Idaho. Is that going to be enough to get production up beyond 50%? Okay,
so that is a deposit in Idaho. As you mentioned, it's 80% gold, 20% antimony, which is not unlike where a lot of antimony is found. And Perpetua has been working on permitting for good 5 years and still doesn't have all the permits. But there will be a lot of antimony mined there, but we're talking 4-5 years. It's not going to be tomorrow. So the samples that we're getting are just to test what is the outcrops and what's the tailings that are laying there on the ground. But the real big mining operation for the gold is truly a gold company more than an antimony company. It's years away. So that's not going to be the short-term answer.
That's very interesting that you're looking at it that way in terms of gold. Look, Gary, you mentioned before that the U.S. Antimony Corporation is in ongoing negotiations with the Department of Defense for expansive funding. Where are you on that? Because this is colliding with these expectations that they're going to start cutting funding, right? And DOGE is going to come in and start taking costs out of government.
Well, I think everybody in the Department of Defense, which serves all military arms of the U.S. government, is well aware of the problem. And so we are getting a tremendous amount of attention. We talk to them weekly, and we're believing that there will be something done here quickly. I think the change of the administration also is very positive. This is really, though, not a Democratic or Republican problem. It's a U.S. national problem.
It sure is, and it's about the military, which of course is going to be #1 priority, if not in the top couple of priorities for the incoming administration. What would you say about the needs in terms of the military right now? It's a dangerous world out there, and I imagine the demand goes up. Can you talk about that as well as your economic backdrop outlook going into this new administration and new year?
Well, it's definitely. We got caught flat-footed. There's no question about that. And that's been made clear to me by the Department of Defense. But they see companies like us. We've been in operation 20 years. We run this smelter 24/7. There's no other smelter here because when China went out and bought all these mines around the world, they drove the price down. So it was really a truly anti-competitive situation. And fortunately, we were able to survive through that, and now we're reaping the benefits. So I think the DOD, they understand the issue, and I think they're going to address it. I'm very confident, based on the conversations that we've had, the work we've done, the visits we've had, the papers we've submitted, that this is something that they will help us fix.
Terrific. Gary, thanks very much for walking us through all of that. We so appreciate it. A very interesting story and situation that you find yourself in right now. We'll be watching. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Maria.
All right, Gary Evans joining us, Antimony. Quick break, and we'll be back with more on the drone